Hi Aries, welcome to your December 2019 love reading. It's Raina here, and obviously this is very late because I'm finally over the hump of a cold, and so I wanted to, normally I wouldn't even bother, but I'd already done so many of them that I wanted to kind of complete the series, and yours is one of the ones I didn't do. It feels so weird after all this time to even be behind a camera again. And this deck, apparently, that I was using, I think I might have even started this 2 weeks ago. It was quite a while ago. It's called Ethereal Visions, in case you're interested. It's an illuminated tarot deck. That's what they call it, the subtitle. And I guess illuminated is probably because it's gilded in gold. Well, no, it's gilded in, silver. So that's what I'm using. So this is, let me just show you. I've been showing people the back of the cards. They're matte cards, even though it looks glossy, but it's actually matte. But they're good cardstock in case you're looking for, if you like this design. I think it's like Art Deco or something. It's very early 1900s-esque. All right, so here I go. This reading is intended for people who are either single and looking, or coupled and looking. Coupled and not a happy camper. And maybe wanting to make the relationship better. Of course, in order to improve your relationship, you have to do something more than watch tarot readings, obviously, as with anything else in life, but, for what it's worth. Okay. So, a status of your relationship, or the status of your love life if you're single. We have the Two of Wands. This is an interesting depiction. Now, this particular deck is pretty faithful to the Rider-Waite deck, which is one of the reasons I did buy it, because I wanted something that was very easily relatable to what the cards represent. You know how some of these decks are, where they're just kind of almost seem random. And in this particular depiction of the Two of Wands, it shows somebody who's high up looking down at the water. But the elevation to me is about expansion, because the wands as an element is fire, and fire is expansive. And yeah, you're fire. That's right. What was I thinking? And the whole idea of expansive energy means that the person may currently, if they're in a relationship, feel rather stifled. They feel like the person that they're with does not provide them growth. And this is not necessarily how everyone would approach relationships. Maybe the person that they're with is a perfectly nice person, they get along, everything is hunky-dory on a certain level, but there's a stagnation there. Aries, one of the reasons that Aries, I don't know if it gets a bad rap, but especially if you have Venus in Aries, maybe even Mars in Aries, is the tendency to be to be bored very easily. And, if there's Gemini in there, like a moon in Gemini or something like that, it creates problems because the novelty factor is what the person's after, or the variety factor. And the thing is that you have to be able to discern between whether or not a relationship is offering you growth opportunities, or if it's simply that you're just in this ADD mindset where you just want new all the time. And it's for Aries, a lot of that is that, you know, what do you call it? That rush of the early relationship, like the person who falls in love with falling in love, and that infatuation phase. And so you might confuse that with love and then get very disillusioned when the relationship becomes routine. The trick is to have a consistent relationship, but make sure that it doesn't get dull. You don't, you know, you can be with the same person for many years and it always is fresh. I just had my partner say that to me after 37 years and say, you know, that he never gets bored. That's the highest compliment as far as I'm concerned. I prefer that to just about anything, and I feel the same way about him. These things are very important. We're both Sagittarians. You're an air. We're fire signs too. You're a fire sign, Aries. You have to make sure that you are with the right person. So perhaps the person's a good person, but it's not the right person. If you're single, the Two of Wands may be career related. You may be like debating whether or not to accept a job offer. And one of these things that happens, and we call it a fluke, but it could be the universe like directing you in a certain direction. And it could be like you transfer for your job. You go to a different city, whatever it is, and that's where you meet the love of your life. So that happens all the time, doesn't it? People who study abroad, work abroad, that's where they meet the person that plays the biggest role in their adult life. And they would have never met that person had they not taken that chance. So there's something that you're deciding about is the bottom line, and that could lead to new love. Maybe you've got two relationships. Yeah, like, okay, perfect. In the past position, we have the Seven of Pentacles. Okay, there's your gildedness. Isn't that beautiful? And speaking of which, the Pentacles relate to earth energy, but also could be finances, the job, your salary, whatever. Seven of Pentacles is kind of like investing time in something and seeing if it's going to pan out. This could be somebody that you've met that's an earth sign, or maybe if you're married to the person, living with the person, engaged to the person, and they're an earth energy. Doesn't have to be the sun sign, but they have that prevailing influence where they're very practical, they're very kind of grounded in that way. And these kinds of people may not be very exciting, but they may be very stabilizing for you. However, if there's like if the decision is whether or not just to stay in that relationship because it's safe, or to possibly just go on your own, or if there is another person who is maybe a fire sign as well, you may be afraid that neither one of you will be as practical. It's like you're both that kind of chaotic, creative types of people, and this other person kind of takes care of you. But that's something that that's a temptation that you should definitely avoid, because that can just be almost like a parent-child relationship. It's not necessarily an equal adult romantic relationship. Also, it's kind of like another thing I want to say with the Seven of Pentacles is you have to give things time, but perhaps sometimes people give things too much time. I don't think Aries, though, is usually you know, like that. Usually you're the one who is very impatient. And that's not good, because you could be a little bit too quick to let go of a relationship because you think that it's not going anywhere. But really, it's because you decided that you wanted something more flashy. And that's definitely what a fire sign relationship would be. So you give it enough time, but you don't have any illusions about it. You know that maybe it's going to work out, maybe it won't. And you're kind of like resigned to the fact that this person may not be compatible with you. And you make peace with it because you know that you can always make a different decision. The higher message, which is kind of the spiritual way of looking at it, is the Seven of Swords. This is a situation where you may decide, or it may be advising you to be on your own. And maybe in some cases kind of ease out of it if you're with somebody who's very sensitive, who might blame themselves for the relationship not working out. But perhaps you're meant to be more independent right now. Maybe you rushed into something without thinking it thoroughly. And if you're in a current relationship, it could indicate that the other person is cheating. This is a card of deception. And if that is the case, and I think that Aries people are very intelligent. The thing that would keep an Aries person from really knowing whether somebody's cheating is that they're just not paying attention to the little details. Not because they're naive, necessarily. Although, sometimes Aries people are very innocent, where they just kind of are very straightforward, and they assume everybody else is like that too. And they don't realize there are some people that are very devious in this world. So if you suspect there might be some other weird behaviors that your partner has been kind of engaging in lately, or changes in their routine, that could have in the back of your mind made you think, I wonder if they're kind of stepping out on me. And perhaps you will realize that that's the case. And even if that is the case, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't reflect, it doesn't say anything about you. It simply is indicating that perhaps you were with the wrong person. And even, even people who commit infidelity, those kinds of people are not necessarily all bad people either. They may have a hard time letting go of the relationship, and so it's easier for them just to kind of sneak around. I think it's cowardly. I don't think it's, and I don't think it shows anybody in the right light, but I don't think that it indicates that somebody is necessarily a bad person. But you're the kind of individual that is much more forthright, and I don't think that a lot of Aries people would take this route. What crosses you is the King of Cups, okay? It's funny, even in the upright position, this guy has a drink in his hand. So this could be, since I'm reading this as a reversed card, this could be indicating why it's not working out, that you're with somebody with a drinking problem who may also have an inability to take responsibility for their life. So they're manipulating. They're very manipulative. And perhaps that's what the Seven of Pentacles is all about for a relationship, is that you've been waiting for them to change and they just never have. Now, for other people, the King of Cups in reverse may be that you grew up without a father who was kind to you. Maybe you had a father, and I'm saying father because, you know, it's a king, who was very, you know, cold emotionally, maybe kind of used emotions to manipulate to get what he wanted. So praise when you did what he wanted you to do, especially maybe with your accomplishments, and then withholding praise and affection when you disappointed him. And this kind of like conditional treatment can be very damaging to people. And when they get to be adults, they just kind of are in that mindset that that's what's going to happen in relationships, that you have to please that person in order to get love. So it's very important, Aries, to kind of like examine, you know, you single people, to examine the expectations you have in relationships. Because it could be that you are operating with a rather, how would I put it, faulty sense of, you know, the whole point of relationships, which is to have that kind of adventure together, especially with an Aries, with somebody who's an Aries. You love adventure. You want to have a partner to share it with, and not to be with somebody who is judging you all the time, who's always, when people are manipulating, it's like you're on the chessboard and they're just pushing you around to get their desired goal met, but they're not really loving you. And this is what takes a long time to figure that out, whether you're talking about a parent or a partner, is that this person doesn't love you because they don't know what love is. All they know how to do is to control. And so they use manipulation to get there, especially if they're a water sign or have a strong water element, because they have an uncanny knack of knowing, you know, what buttons to push to get what they want. And so it's really a matter of analyzing things, looking at things at a deeper level so that you can make better choices next time. What's coming in are the advice is the Devil card. This was something I was just about to bring up, which is about the idea of lust and Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, and one of the aspects of Mars is sex drive, libido, and Aries people, you know, are up there because of that. And this leads to making the wrong choice, because, you know, if you're choosing somebody based on physical attraction or desire, that's just one surface kind of thing, and it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get along with that person or that you're going to have similar goals. And that's where things get really messy, when people just are totally different and they don't understand each other. They don't understand why another person thinks the way they think, but they have a great physical chemistry, and to them that they're placing you know, extra importance on that, and that is problematic to me, because that's what leads you down the wrong road. So what I would say is, if you're currently coupled with somebody and you're unhappy, but you find that it's hard to leave, ask yourself, is there something holding me here? Because the Devil card can be like feeling ensnared. Is there something like keeping me trapped in this relationship that is of a materialistic nature? Could be that the person provides a great lifestyle. Could be that the physical relationship is the best you've ever had. It could be that, there was something else that I was going to say. Again, with addiction, and maybe there's, both of you have addiction, so that it's like you're drinking buddies, or you're, other types of, it's like you both indulge in this thing, and it's something that you have in common. Who knows? I mean, it can run the gamut. Well, even like sex addiction, two people can be very, very in sync in that area, and it's like this, it's like a moth to a flame, but it's very destructive overall, very destructive relationship. So it's important that you identify why you're with somebody that you don't get along with, so that you know what it's going to take to leave. Like I said, with the Seven of Swords, it might be better in this particular case to leave that person in a very nonchalant manner, because I was just thinking too, with the Devil card, sometimes I think of narcissism. The person is really like a sociopath, you know what I mean? Like, or, maybe I'm saying something too intense, but the person doesn't have a conscience, or they don't have, you're hoping, I think of with the Seven of Pentacles, you're hoping that they're going to have that come to Jesus moment, where then you're going to realize, hey, I wasn't stupid for hanging around, because I'm getting my payoff. I'm getting what I invested in this thing. And it's like you're waiting for them to see the light, and they never do. As a matter of fact, you almost think, wow, it seems like they're getting worse. Don't kid yourself. If you're with somebody that is a very negative influence on you, that should be even more of a reason to get away from them. You don't have to rationalize it, come up with reasons why it's a good idea. Just make sure that you are willing to get out of there and really improve your life in general. And then the outcome is perfect. The Four of Swords. And this is a card of contemplation, maybe rest, recuperation. If you're in a relationship with a person who has these narcissistic tendencies, your nervous system may be shot. It could have reignited old traumas from childhood. If you're single, you may be the kind of person who jumps from one relationship to the other, and you feel like you're on this roller coaster ride. Maybe it's time to slow down, to kind of regroup. And that's what the Four of Swords is about, to reboot. And also to reflect, because we're talking about swords, so we're talking about this idea of being intentional with relationships. I think too many people don't take this area of life very seriously, and that they live to regret it. It's not a joke to get intimate with somebody physically, because it could mean that one of the parties gets pregnant, and then you might be connected to that person forever, regardless of what you choose to do about it. You're still connected. There's like an energetic bond. So being intentional means in every aspect of that interaction with a potential partner, or with a person that you want to, I guess you'd call it a potential partner, or with somebody you're with already, is to really take it seriously. If there's somebody who is you're even afraid of, don't get that person angry, because if you want to leave, that kind of thing, these people are not very, they're not confident. They may act like they may put you down and act like you're the one who's a loser, you're nobody and everything like that. But if you were to leave, that would just completely rip off their mask. And they would feel defenseless, okay? And you don't want to back a mad dog into a corner. So that took quite a dramatic turn, but when I saw the devil, I realized that, yeah, I mean, you might be dealing with somebody who is pretty, you know, bad news, because a lot of people are. A lot of people are finding themselves in relationships with people who are not nice people. I mean, you know, forget about whether they're interesting or not. They're not nice. And so you have to approach it very methodically. I think the Seven of Swords too is about strategizing, you know. And if you're single, being intentional. Don't just, you know, don't be that Aries person who just is in a whirlwind all the time, and you're just kind of got a hand in this, a hand in that, always like, you know, being impulsive. It really is slowing down and taking a deep breath before you say something, or pausing before you act, can save you a lot of heartache in the long run. And you don't have to lose your spontaneity, but just don't get too careless. Okay, that's what I have for you, Aries. I always like, you know, when I do love readings, I always say, okay, I'm going to just try to just be, you know, just light and breezy, maybe a little superficial, because people don't want these, you know, don't want to get too deep, you know what I mean? But I can't. I can only do what I feel called to do. If you've, you know, if you're in a relationship with somebody right now and you're not sure, you're seeing some red flags, you're seeing things that upset you, and yet they're telling you that that you're crazy, or, you know, whatever. That's one of the things that I do is I look at both people's charts, and I point things out. I can't say that I'm going to know another person that I've never met, but if I'm talking about your partner, who knows? Maybe you'll agree with me and you'll say that I hit the nail on the head. And it's just like a validation, usually, for what you already are sensing, because sometimes we second guess ourselves. And so I do like relationship readings. I do single love readings too. And it's mostly natal chart based, and I use the tarot as well. I have other types of, you know, astrology readings and stuff like that. My website is rainamoonastrology.com, and the link to a special that I'm offering right now for 2020 is currently below the video. Just putting it there because it's a default position, but if you go there, you can, you know, navigate my website. Have a great rest of December. Take care. Bye.